We all know what's going on in Israel. It's been all over the news. An invasion by air, land, and sea. All sorts of stuff is happening over there. It is going crazy. And the Israeli National Security Minister said he wants to be able to arm as many Israeli citizens as possible. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but first, I'll let you know we got a gun giveaway going on. It's happening right now. It's absolutely free, but it does end really soon. So click the link in the description down below to see which brand new gun you could win. Do you realize that only 1.5% of Israelis own firearms, are allowed to own firearms? And what they want to do now is make it easier, in the face of this invasion, for people to buy guns. Stop and think about this for a minute. Isn't it kind of too late? Now that the invasion is happening, now they want to give the private citizens the opportunity to defend themselves. This is why we have the Second Amendment, isn't it? Isn't it? Well, they don't have it in Israel. So people have to request to own a firearm. And get this, you may own one handgun and 50 rounds of ammunition. Under the new rules, you get to own 100 rounds of ammunition, and you can still own one handgun. I couldn't find any reference to long guns or anything like that, but understanding that they will let you own a gun and 100 rounds of ammunition, and you still have to prove your need. Is this the right thing? That you have to prove your need to be able to defend yourself in order to get your permit to own a gun? And in Israel, owning a gun and carrying a gun is no different. If you own it, you're allowed to carry it wherever you want to go. So that's interesting. But you still have to prove your need. And this new law, this new emergency resolution that they're passing, that is going to allow them to arm as many people as possible, doesn't remove this requirement to prove your need. It just says that you can now do the interview over the phone rather than going to do it in person. And there are still really serious barriers to what it takes to get permission to own a gun in Israel. You have to be living in one of the settlement areas or near one of the settlement areas. Active duty members of law enforcement and military, and get this, firefighters who typically carry guns, or security guards who typically carry guns in Israel, they can get a permit. But private citizens have to show their need to be able to defend themselves, a good reason for them to own a gun. And these changes are not going to let, I don't know, a vast majority, not even the majority of the residents of Israel will get to own a gun after this. Understand that there are credible reports of Palestinian invaders taking citizens hostage in Israel. Now, do you think they did that because they knew only 1.5% of the people of Israel owned guns, that they were going up against an unarmed and defenseless population? Yes, the Israeli military is big. The Israeli military reserves are active. They're calling people to duty. They're fighting back strongly against this. But for these media reports and all this left-wing media in the U.S. saying, well, they're easing gun restrictions in Israel. Yeah, they tried to do it back in February. They tried to ease restrictions in the UN, threw a fit. No, they shouldn't do it. You know what? The restrictions in Israel are making people less safe. What do you think about that? I mean, seriously. Only 1.5% of the population that is surrounded by nations who don't even want them to exist are allowed to own guns. And when the nation is in crisis, they waited till the crisis started and now saying they're going to ease the gun restrictions, and really that's all they're doing. It tells me that any nation that gets to have gun control does not want to give up that control very easily, even in the face of an invasion, even in the face of an outright attack. This is Israel's 9/11. That's what they're calling it over there now. Even in the face of an outright attack, the Israeli government doesn't really want to give up their controls on the private ownerships of firearms in Israel. So I don't know what could be a more clear-cut case of the need to own firearms and be able to defend yourself than living in a place like Israel. And right now, while it's under attack, it is still next to impossible to get a firearm. I just don't understand it. And really, what I have to say about this is an absolute case to continue the fight to stop gun control in the United States. Yep, we don't have a lot of really angry neighbors around us on the borders of the United States, but we still do have crime, and we still do need to defend ourselves against crime. We're probably not going to be defending against foreign invaders, but every human being has the right to live, to be able to use equal, justifiable, legal force to defend themselves. And any place that puts gun control, especially this egregious gun control where you have to prove your need to exercise your right to stay alive, that's just wrong. And then for people to say, well, we're making it easier. You don't have to go in and visit us face to face now and tell us about your need to protect yourself. Now you can do it over the phone. Well, guess what? The number of people who have applied for permits in Israel has gone up 280% in the last several months. You think that's going to go through the roof right now? Everybody's going to be wanting their guns right now. And in a place that even limits the amount of ammunition you have? Do you think there's a lot of ammo on the shelves, a lot of ammo to be purchased anywhere in Israel? Right now, people are desperate to defend themselves. And right now, they do not have the ability to do so because the government agreed to take care of them. Do you think that any of the people attacking Israel right now paid any attention to Israeli gun control laws? I don't think so. The only people who are suffering now are the honest, law-abiding citizens who didn't go and get a gun and get training and get ready to defend themselves if the unthinkable ever happened. Well, the unthinkable is happening. So realize that the unthinkable can happen. And we're not buying a gun because we're paranoid. We're buying a gun because we want to be prepared. I hope to God I never have to use my guns. But if I do, I want to be able to do that without the government standing over my shoulder and saying, you only get this many bullets, you can only own this many guns, and you got to prove to me why you think you need to defend yourself. I need to defend myself because it's my right to stay alive. It's the right of every human being to stay alive, to meet aggression with equal or greater aggression to make sure that you can stay alive. And yes, we have laws that control that, and we should have laws that control that. It can't just be the Wild West. I'm not advocating that. But I am advocating for the right to keep and bear arms. It's written in our Constitution. It's enshrined. We can never let go of that because you see what happens. If a government, any government, even an ally like Israel, we think of Israel as a great democracy. If any government takes away the right to keep and bear arms, they never want to give it back. Before you go, you just missed one of our best videos that got over 500,000 views. Click right here to watch it now.